So from an equipment standpoint, all the disaggregation trends that are going on, what are your thoughts on
I mean, I struggle with the what am I going to get out of it as an end user? Because we're not an equipment manufacturer. We don't even do integration per se. Now, if there was something really grandiose, if it was brand new or we were buying it from a different supplier, perhaps. But if you're still buying it you're buying the exact same parts from the exact same people that you are today, and then you have to do the integration, and you didn't get anything new or unique or earth-shattering. You didn't get a new coherent receiver out of it. You know, you get the exact same one that you could have bought integrated. I struggle a bit. I think that there's value add from if you feel that you need to, this northbound API, and if we can standardize some of these things, I think there's real value in that.
Yeah,
in that
definitely,
we can add things quicker, or when they
you can turn up service quicker, for example.
Exactly, and we can treat equipment about the same from our end.
Yeah,
that has huge advantages. But do I want to go mixing and matching and try and build my own computer kind of thing? Probably not. At least, again, we don't see what we're getting out of that necessarily. We do see a lot of advantages if that API was standardized and we could treat equipment the same. Therefore, we wouldn't have any back office development to introduce something new.
So how do you see the standards bodies I mean, people got frustrated with them, didn't they? Because they got all political and slow and things like that. But, going back to your point there, we need some form of standardization because for you guys, right? If not, you're going to be buying proprietary systems that don't.
It may be open, but it's not common. It's not standard. And there's a everybody runs around today and says, "Oh, here I wrote the standard. Here it is. You can have it for free." Oh yeah, but there are 4 of them. Why should I pick that one over this one? And there's trade-offs on each individual one, and there's no one best solution. And therefore you say, guys, that's why standards work was hard, because you had to get everybody to agree to one. And then you had a standard.
And then one of the things with having the open APIs and that I keep thinking about is, are we getting to the lowest common denominator in terms of what the equipment can provide, or if we can provide extensions, for example. There are definitely standards that were approved by a whole lot of people. For example, the whole SDH standard, for example, right? Everybody's equipment works with the same,
Client side, you can plug any of them into Xtera and it'll work just fine.
Work just fine. And that sort of a thing hasn't happened so much in software over time with interfaces and things like that. So, but if we do come up with a standard, then having an open interface and a common interface is extremely useful, that you can buy tools and other things that you can manage the network with.
Everybody will want to customize it, but you have to have a common and standard interface to do that development, to do that extra stuff on. But it has to come with a base functionality, right? That's common across all the things that I want to operate if it's going to add value.
And be extensible in the sense that you can take advantage of someone else's innovation from an equipment standpoint. For example, one thing we are working on with our open amplifier is that it's an open line system concept where we have all the Raman amplifiers that can work together and actually work together very well, providing the line system and provide better OSNR compared to, say, just being a standalone amplifier. We can do both of those things, but working together and providing a better performance is much more useful in that sense.
I guess, agreed. Completely agree, and that's where we find that attractive, to have it all working together as a system that was designed and built.
Yeah.
Optimized, right. As opposed to, gee, I saved $5 on each part, but then what did I get in the end? Did I get an optimal network design? Or did I get something that I'm going to have trouble supporting down the road? Because you put one of these systems in place and you have to operate it for a decade, longer. Some of this stuff has been in the ground a long time, and in the water a long time, and you expect it to continue to operate, and you want somebody to support that for you. Where I'm afraid if you do try and break it all up and try and grow that over time, that you may find yourself that you painted yourself into a corner, and that can mean a lost investment. And you really need to be able to fill it up in order to get your return on it.
I guess the other thing that's sort of exercising as well as the standard on these sort of end-to-end systems is a common measurement technique for quantifying a large pipe, right? Because we might say, which I did earlier on, 70 nanometers, right? Somebody else might sort of say, well, I've measured mine, it's 82, or and somebody else might say, well, it's 69. It's the same line, so we need to sort of be able to sort of find some way of accurately quantifying these open lines as well,
right?
Because particularly if we go from selling or equipping a fibre pair with party A's, SLT, and fibre pair with party B's, that's easy, right? The more difficult thing is if we have to sort of create virtual fibres where we've got some sort of spectral sharing, right? Then you really do need to sort of be able to make certain that you can quantify that line, and each of the end parties gets an nth share of that.
Right.
Not the bad bits at the end or whatever,
Yep.
So.
And there's also all of those, as you mentioned, the planning tool that goes along with it, the engineering tool. If you get to that lowest common denominator, you've left margin on the table, and that margin is valuable, right? That's where we want to put. Extend the band. That's where we want to use higher baud rates. That's where we want to use better deeper modulation in order to take advantage of that margin, because it doesn't do us any good to leave it there. We need some operating margin, of course, but if you piecemeal it together, you have to allocate that margin over and over and over, right, in your planning tool, in your engineering tool, because everybody's saying, no, if I only can do this little piece of it, well then I must have X amount of spare margin available. Where if you're looking at it at a total system level, you can say, well, I'm going to allocate that margin. I'm going to do margin analysis and say, here's how much I need for aging and temperature changes and everything else across the entire system versus each individual part.
Yeah, that's what the submarine guys do very well on the submarine links, where the link is optimized for certain capacity, certain margin, aging, repair margin, whatever margins that they allocate for, and it's an end-to-end system. And if the repeaters, if the amplifiers work together and optimize the spectrum, for example, then you can squeeze more out of the network.
Exactly. Yeah. And that squeezing more out of it is part of that key to we may see Shannon from where we're at, but let's at least take advantage of everything that we've got available, and that means having only the appropriate amount of spare bandwidth or bits that aren't carrying anything in the network out there. You don't want to have 100% protection when you're never going to use 100%. That's where we get into mesh networking. Let's back that off to something that makes sense. Let's make sure that we can have use up every OSNR dB that we can get our hands on and put spectrum on it, put capacity on it, and take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting playing it forward, isn't it? Because when we started Azir, which we merged, as you know, with Xtera, we I guess half created this upgrade sort of concept, right? And it's very clear that in those days you could take something that had been designed for say 8 by 2.5, and you could smash it, I think there's probably 20 by sort of 100 or whatever on those links, right? Because they could support it with better technology that better OSNR tolerance. But now that some of the systems are going in sort of 90% sort of towards the Shannon limit, it's more difficult to see how they can be upgraded sort of later on. So. It's going to be an interesting challenge in sort of a decade or so, to see how much more you can squeeze out of it.
Right. But then again, if it's power optimized, perhaps another pair of fibers, or 2 pair, or 3 pair.
Absolutely.
This significantly changes the game for a link like that. I mean, because you're getting a lot of capacity per fiber pair, and if you can add more fiber pairs, again, you don't have to reinvent anything. You can actually just pull it off. And this seems like at least in terrestrial world, I can tell you that's the direction we're headed. I would imagine that it's probably the right answer for submarine as well.
It is, yeah.
Very good. Well, nice speaking with you today, Vijay.
Good to see you.
Take care. Always a pleasure, Stuart.
Absolutely.
Let's do this again.
Yeah, let's do it again. Yep.